So I just wanted to cover off the answers to some questions that were sent specifically through to the CEO. And probably one of the questions that come through quite a bit was this questions in different versions about where the culture is of the club. And I get that. There's been some quite high profile player incidents in the off-season, and so I wanted to reassure everyone in the room, everyone watching, all Melbourne members and Melbourne supporters, and we've got the board sitting here, which is fantastic as well, Kate Roffey and all the board, and I can tell you now the culture of the Melbourne Football Club is very strong, it's very resilient. It starts with these guys here. It starts with the board, through myself and the executive, through the football programs. It's a very strong and aligned culture. And when I get asked about are there problems with our culture, I would say quite the opposite. Our culture and alignment of our values and standards and behaviours and expectations is something that's a real competitive edge. I think it's played a very major role in the premierships that the AFL and the AFLW teams have won in recent years. And those cultural programs are still being led by the same leaders. So I've got great confidence. But I also understand, as members and supporters, we don't want to see our players in the paper or being talked about in terms of controversies or behavioural issues. And I can't promise that we haven't in the past or we won't in the future have issues around behaviour or people not being in line with the culture. That's not what a strong culture is about. If you have a strong culture, that is about calling out when individuals aren't in alignment with the culture, with our values, trust, respect, unity and excellence. It's about holding people accountable. It's about having the leaders that are very clear on what alignment looks like and making sure that anyone that steps out of line is reminded of that, and we work with those individuals to create that alignment again. So when I see issues, I can tell you now, we will in the future, every club will, every organisation will, we will have challenges of people not being in alignment at different times in small ways or maybe larger. Some of them end up in the media, some of them stay internal. We'll continue to drive our cultural programs through our leaders, and it is a way of making us stronger and more aligned. So as I said, when I get asked about do we have cultural problems, I think quite the opposite. I think it is a competitive edge, and it's just being driven by, I think, the best group of leaders that I've seen within a football organisation. And like I said, it literally starts with the board. I feel it all the way through the organisation. We are lucky to have the people that are sitting up here tonight, and that is not an end point. We don't sit here and go, the culture's in good shape. It is a living, breathing organism every single day. You need to invest in it. You need to run the programs. You need to be constantly working on it to make sure that it remains strong and healthy. So I wanted to touch on that early when we talk about our programs. What am I talking about when we reference culture? Because everyone seems to use different references on that. And for me, this is about having standards, disciplines, alignments, really clear expectations of everyone in the organisation. They know what it looks like to be in alignment with the culture, and they know what it looks and feels like not to be in alignment. And that's what I think the strength of any organisation's culture is. Also, that we recognise and celebrate when players, when staff, when coaches, with anyone around the organisations living those values of trust, respect, unity and excellence. It's in our language, we celebrate those individuals, and it keeps on reinforcing the culture, and that's in equal measures to holding people accountable when it's not there. So I wanted to cover that off right up front, because that was a question coming through in different forms. I also got quite a few questions to say, how are Clayton Oliver and Joel Smith going at the moment? And Clayton's doing really well. He's in a great head shape. He's back in training. He's still recovering from his knee operation where he had a bit of a tidy up at the end of the season. He's made a real commitment to these leaders up here and his teammates. He's 100% in. He wants to be part of something really special. So he's in really good shape. I think we understand that Joel Smith is still part of an active investigation with the AFL and the Sports Integrity Australia. So when we get information on that, we'll update you on that. He's not part of our program and won't be allowed to until that's resolved in whatever shape and form. And one of the other questions that come through were talked about before, but again, I wanted to reinforce, both of those individuals, including, in fact, all individuals within our program, our high performance program, will continue to get the off-field support and expert support that they specifically need for their personal needs as well. So I think we can't go into a lot more detail on that, but just know through this challenging time, the club is absolutely there to support those individuals as well. One other question that come through quite a bit, might surprise you, about the facilities. And I just wanted to give you a bit of an update. First of all, I want to start with a bit of us picturing what our facility strategy looks like. We all need to be clear on, for example, I get asked about where Casey Field sits in. Our strategy, our vision long-term as a club is to have 2 facilities, 2 campuses. We have 4 teams. Unlike a lot of AFL teams, we have 4 teams. We have an AFL team, we have a VFL team, we have an AFLW team, we have a VFLW team. They all need to train, they all need to do pre-season, they all need to play. They need to train on grounds that during winter have had a chance to be rested because the grounds get damaged and overrun by training and playing. So our vision is about having a 2-campus model. And what I can say, and it's a bit, at the AGM, we will be talking a lot more about the facilities. I deliberately want to keep this about footy. We're not going to go into a lot of fancy pictures about it, but we will be next week. So our Casey Fields campus, where our VFLW teams train, our AFLW teams play, our AFL team plays practice games. We regularly train out there because of the facilities. Because one of the great things I can tell you right now is that Casey Fields campus is fully completed now. And it is something, we'll show you pictures, but if you get a chance, make sure you go out there and watch a game or watch training, because we now have the gym, we now have the indoor kicking facility, we have the aquatic recovery, we have the lap pools, we have all the medical facilities out there. And suffice to say, Richo, I would say that the players, coaches would find it something quite exceptional now to be doing our pre-season there at the moment.
It's brilliant. It's all we want.
And so that's Casey Fields as our campus there is completed. And one of the things I said to a few of you here that because you've rolled up, we wanted to make sure we had a bit of an exclusive for you. One of the things as we sit here right at the moment, there's a press release just going out into the media and on our social channels to our members and supporters, is the great news that today we received the funding to do our feasibility, our design work, to continue the work we're looking at developing our master plan and designs for a primary home base headquarters at Caulfield Racetrack. All right, now I know there's been a bit of talk about that. We haven't been in a position to agree or not agree. We're very much dictated by the partners we're working with about when appropriate communications can play out. But I hope everyone's excited about that. This is years in the coming. And for the board and for the executive and everyone up here and so many people around the club that have been working with the key stakeholders to be, and again, some of you may know the Caulfield Racetrack, some of you might know it really well, but for us to be exploring 2 ovals, 2 elite standard ovals in the middle of the racetrack there, a training facility on the outside of the track. Obviously you can't build a multi-level facility inside. These are all things that we'll be doing the feasibility and design work on right now. A couple of you I've been in conversations with over the years about where it sits with Amy and within the MOPT precinct. We would love to be, we'd love to be based at the MCG like we were. The last time we were actually a club together, some of you might remember, where we were training and playing at the MCG, our staff, which was only a handful of people, were in the offices, and this was technically the Melbourne Footy Club. That was the last time we were together as a club. So that's why this announcement is so important, the potential to get us all together. But when we kept on exploring the options from an MOPT point of view, and they've been great to work with us, the reality is it's a great area, which is why Storm, Victory, Rebel, concerts are played here. It's one of those things that from a space point of view, we don't want to be providing training facilities for these guys here and the players that are compromised and won't be compromised in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. We've got to set up a facility at a location that won't require any compromise and can age with us as we go into the longer term. So hopefully you see, like I said, I'm specifically not going to go into any more detail than that, except to know that it's real and it's been announced this afternoon. You'll hear a bit more about it at the AGM, but I think that is pretty special, and hopefully everyone's pretty excited about that. I know there's been so many people in this room and the watching at home that have been part of that journey as well. And the last one I wanted to finish with, which is a question that comes to me quite a bit, which is about where my expectations are of the programs. And as I stand here and in the last couple of months, there's no doubt we're all equally as disappointed at the end of the year when we don't win finals. And no one's more disappointed than the players and the coaches and the people that live and breathe it every day. But we are disappointed about that, and I'm disappointed for a period of time. But this is the way I look at things, and I know this is the way the board looks at it, because this is in our strategic plan. 4 years ago, I stood here in front of many of you, and we launched a 4-year strategic plan. And we said that both our men and women's teams would be playing every year in the finals and winning at least one premiership in that 4-year period. Now, I don't know if many of you remember the response, but it was pretty universal. And that was, we're setting expectations too high and we're going to be disappointed, and this really what we should be committing to. And it felt uncomfortable. And what I love is the fact that we all sit here now and we feel disappointed that we're making finals and we didn't win the premiership. I know it doesn't probably feel like it at times, but that's a big step forward for this club. Because I've spoken to Melbourne people who weren't disappointed even when we didn't make the finals. And it's great that our expectations, what we believe in these guys, what we know our AFLW and our AFL players are capable of, we're disappointed. But the last 4 years we said we'd play in finals every year, we'd give ourselves a chance, we'd win a premiership, both teams, and they've delivered that. And at the same time, while we want to keep on striving, we haven't launched our next 4-year strategic plan. That will happen at the start of next year. We want to deliberately launch the year. I can tell you now it's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to expect, and the board's agreed to this and signed off and agreed to resource the club and the programs to the level that we will continue to stay up in the mix, competitive, for what would then be a 4, 6, 8, maybe 10-year period. We need to be up in the mix 8 or 10 years. You look at all the best teams are up for a long period of time. And if we can stay up for 8 or 10 years for both the teams, that is our best chance of multiple premierships. So as we all stand here, we need to appreciate how hard it is. We also need to appreciate that when you win a premiership, every single other team goes, they're the team to beat, and we're going to pull them apart. And we're playing against the past premiership team or one of the best teams, and they find an extra energy and they put more time into their preparation. That's something we've got to embrace and love, because we weren't that club for a long time and we are now. And I just hope you feel as proud as I do of what these guys, both the programs we run and what the potential of that program is. So we're not promising premierships every year, but we want to be up in the mix so that this is an era that we can all feel really proud of.